episode of In the Know, where we keep you informed. We have a very special guest for today's episode, Dr. Vipul Desai from the Houston Center for Infectious Diseases. They've been serving our public in this local area since the year 2000, and I believe last year they had over 24,000 patient touches in all types of diseases and infectious diseases, if you will. But we've asked Dr. Desai to help us understand the coronaviruses. It's not just one, but first off, welcome. Thanks for coming. Thanks for taking the time.
Thank you for having me, Hank.
I really appreciate it. I mean, you're in this business and you chose this business, and my goodness, we're all aware of how dangerous it is now, but we didn't know before.
Absolutely right. Almost lethal in a way. They've been very aggressive. One, we've heard about the SARS one in 2003. The second one was the MERS, Middle Eastern Respiratory Syndrome, MERS, in 2012.
Right.
And this is the third one right now we're dealing with, which is SARS-CoV-2 is what we're calling it.
So this is another, quote, SARS, if you will. It's another SARS is what you're explaining to us. So we have some experience with this, just not with this strain, I guess, if I'm using the right.
The strain is slightly different, but all three of them are beta coronaviruses. It's a particular type of a coronavirus. You have alpha, beta, gamma, delta. And the beta viruses are the ones that are easily transmittable. They're zoonotic, so we have a reservoir, and actually we think that all three of them, the SARS, MERS, and this COVID-19, the SARS-2, is also from bats. We think that somehow from the bats it went into a reservoir in an animal, and we're not exactly sure what it is. This would have been in Wuhan, China, around December 2019.
Would this be food? Forgive me for interrupting. Is this animal that it got into, is it something that's food that people consume?
It is.
Okay.
And then in some of these places that have a wet market is what they call it, wet, meaning live animals. And these are being traded and for food, for consumption, for medicine, things like that. Mm-hmm. And we think that a bat may have transmitted to, we're not exactly sure which animal it is. They're talking about a pangolin, which is a scaly anteater, mm-hmm. Which could have passed it on to, and then from there, it could have been given to a human being for consumption or medicine purposes.
Okay.
And somebody from Wuhan, it moved over to the human being, and then from that it got contagious and started moving.
Wow. So, and the others, let's say the others that are in the family, the difference with this one and say the SARS that we knew of and the MERS is?
They're quite similar. The other one in SARS was also from bats too. I think it went to civet cats, and then from there it went to human beings. But the SARS, the one from 2003 versus this one seems to be a little bit more lethal because it affected both types, the upper respiratory as well as the lower respiratory. It wasn't as fast moving or contagious as this particular one is. Mm-hmm. So right now we're looking at probably mortality somewhere around 2% maybe, to maybe even a little bit less than 2% of this particular COVID-19. MERS is around 35% mortality, and the SARS in 2003 was roughly around 10 to 11%.
Oh my goodness. Well, why were, I sort of remember those, but I don't know if y'all out there remember those at all. Why did we not have the same reactions to those as we're having to this now? Here in this country, for example.
Sure, I feel that those were contagious as well. I feel that this one is probably a little bit more contagious, seems to be being able to transmittable faster, it seems to be spreading faster, and I think that's got the whole world on notice.
Okay.
But all three of them are similar. They're from coronaviruses. They vary slightly differently in their how how they replicate. The coronavirus it's called corona because in Latin it's a crown basically.
Okay.
And
Is that those little drawings they show us that it's a little circle with a little crown thingies coming out? That's the.
absolutely right.
Oh,
Yeah.
I get it now. Okay.
It's circular. It has these proteins on the edges, and this is how when we get it, it's a respiratory from the mucosa. We take it in, and from that particular virus, it will attach to the respiratory cell or epithelial cell of a respiratory and kind of enter that way.
So, in all the time that you've been in this practice, and even during your studies, were we aware that there was a possibility of something like this happening, coming about? I mean,
Yes, I think every 4 to 5 years we should expect something like this. As if we don't have tougher regulations on these wet markets in these countries, and we don't monitor them more carefully, we will tend to have more of these in the future. Yes.
oh my goodness. So basically, it's upon those markets or those places that would have to start to monitor appropriately so that the rest of the world could be safe?
I agree. I feel like some of these countries with their governments need to possibly do more regulations and monitor these type of markets, have a bit more regulations, that way we can control, and if there's any outbreaks we can contain them a little bit more quicker.
Where do you see this, and I know that it's a difficult question, but where do you see this going? In other words, where are we now, and what are we expecting to see over the next 30, 60, 90 days? In your estimation, and I'm not holding you to that because I know it's impossible to predict, but
Sure.
in your professional opinion.
I feel the transmission, I don't feel like we're testing enough. I think the number's a lot larger than what's being said right now. But that being said, it's going to get worse over the next 2-3 weeks, only because we're just being able to capture these patients and test them.
Okay.
I feel that we will start getting a handle of this, but it's still going to be out there for the next couple of months. Yeah.
Ouch. And the vaccine?
It's in the
I mean,
works.
you guys work on, you all are part of this whole system too, whether it's this or other diseases. You do experiments and provide information to CDC and everybody else.
Correct, yeah, we do provide feedback to the CDC. I do know that they are in the works for the vaccine. Unfortunately, a vaccine probably will not be available for at least a year and a half or something like that.
Oh.
Viruses are a little bit difficult as the proteins, as I was mentioning to you, as they change up a little bit. Each one are slightly separately different, and so that's why the SARS from 2003 is slightly different from this one in if it's more contagious or less contagious. Is it more lethal compared to the other one? And it's kind of harder to get it down and try to get a vaccine. So it will take some time before we can get a vaccine going.
So for now, we just follow the protocol and hope that the warm weather and those other things that we've heard are gonna maybe slow down the.
Correct, and the virus, it's with the fomites and some of its aerosol. It likes the drier, the colder type of weather. But as the weather starts changing and starts becoming warmer, I feel that it will slowly start cutting down. Plus, some of the regulations that we are implementing, and we're talking about washing hands, the distancing, keeping a safe distance, and not touching your face. All that will help to curb the outbreak.
Well, Dr. Desai, will you be able to come back and see us, because I have so many more questions that I know that we're out of time now.
Yes.
You will come back?
Yes.
Well, and so, by the way, we live in Texas, where it's nice and warm and hot in the summertime, so we're all going to stay here because it'll go away here quicker, right?
Yes.
Thank you so much, and please, we'd like to have you back real soon. We need to know more.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you.
You're now in the know. Thank you, and see you soon.
Let's do that one. The hit just ended.
Okay. That was Leo just called. He must have just got back in town.
He got in last night.
Oh, did he? Okay.
For a while.
All right. Well, busy filming. Leo, we're busy filming.
So how is, are we filming? Or no?
Just
He
the end,
just
just
wants to
the,
get
just the
up.
closing part.
Sure.
We're so happy that you've joined us today and that you've been able to hear from our special guest, Dr. Desai. You are now in the know. Please be safe and follow all the procedures and protocols to keep your loved ones and everyone else free from this coronavirus.